welcome to this week's edition of the American Scottish Foundation Scots in Us. This week, we are speaking with the National Library of Scotland and Dovecot Studios to hear what they have upcoming in their exhibits in the summer months. And then we're going to be speaking with the Inverness Castle project of the Inverness Experience, which has been underway for several years as a capital improvement project and now is nearing the finish line with plans to open in 2025. But let us begin by joining Lucy Clements and hearing from the National Library of Scotland. I'm delighted this morning that I'm going to be joined by Lucy Clements, who is the head of development at the National Library of Scotland. They've got many things planned in the weeks ahead as we go forward to summer. But for now, let's find out what's coming up. Now you've returned to Scotland, Lucy, from your trip to New York.
We had a great time in New York, encountered earthquakes and storms and all sorts, but we made it back safely.
So in the coming weeks, we've always got exciting things happening at the Treasures Gallery, but could you tell us what you're planning? Because the National Library isn't just about books, but reflective of what the books say of the subjects within them.
Absolutely. So we draw on lots of big ideas, and we have lots of different things from film and manuscripts to magazines, patterns, all kinds of things. But in summer, our next major exhibition, which is free to the public, that opens on June the 21st. And it's called Renaissance, and it's all about Scotland in Europe in the 15th and 16th centuries. It's going to be a gorgeous, sumptuous, colourful exhibition, and it'll feature heraldry, embroidery, jewellery, illuminated manuscripts, and portraiture. And the idea is that it's going to challenge the prevailing idea that the Renaissance happened elsewhere, but not in Scotland, when in fact Scotland was a vibrant, intellectual and very cultured place, had a really rich artistic tradition and very strong links with Europe. Scots were travelling abroad to work and to study and to teach, and there was always this really healthy exchange of ideas and artists and artefacts. So we hope.
So will there be, apart from the books being there to be seen, there be actual examples of heraldry, insignias and different pieces and tapestry?
Lots and lots of beautiful objects, some from within our collections and some that we've had on loan from other museums and galleries across Scotland. So yes, some gorgeous embroidery, some lovely jewellery. So it should be a really great sort of holistic exhibition that really conjures up what it felt like at the time, certainly around court.
Oh, how wonderful. That's wonderful. And you're so centrally located. Not everybody realizes, I think, how easy it is to come into the National Library, because you're just off the Royal Mile. And if people are looking to go down to the Straw Market, that's just below down the hill. And it really is, and you don't need tickets. As you were saying, it's open to the public and free.
Yes, we're very central, right by the castle, just off the Royal Mile. We're between the museum and the National Museum and the National Galleries. And it's free. All of our exhibitions are free, and you don't need to book. So just pop in. You can come and see our Treasures Gallery, which is open all year round. And then we have special exhibitions. This one runs from June until next April.
Whoa. And you've also got a lot of online programming, which for us in the States means that we have an opportunity to hear and be a part of some of your programming that's upcoming. Can you tell us a bit about what we've got in the weeks ahead?
That's true. Well, we record a lot of our events and we put them up on our YouTube channel. So you might want to pop across and have a look at that. There's one that's just recently gone up, which was a conversation between Andrew Stauffer, who is the president of the Byron Society of America, and our chair, Sir Drummond Bone, who is a Byron scholar. And they are discussing the life of Lord Byron through 10 letters that he's written. So that's a really interesting talk that's available now. And then on Thursday, the 6th of June, we'll be live streaming an event where Damien Barr will be discussing the adaptation of his celebrated memoir, Maggie and Me, and it's all about growing up in Margaret Thatcher's Britain in the 80s, and it's just been adapted for stage. So they're going to
Oh,
the whole process.
that sounds wonderful. That sounds like we're about to have that before we know it here on Broadway.
Quite possibly, yes. And Damien Barr's a great friend of the library and hosts a lot of literary salons. He's a very interesting man.
But you've got several wonderful leading contemporary authors who do a lot with you. Rankin donated many of his manuscripts, and now you've got Damien Barr. It keeps everything very fresh, doesn't it?
It does. And we just had an appeal actually that we ran in the autumn, which was very much around trying to get some of these incredible modern writers' archives more publicly available. So they're being catalogued and curated. So we just got a huge amount of Alistair Gray's and of course, Poor Things did so well at the Oscars. And we have this manuscript that he wrote of Poor Things. So there's all these incredible treasures at the library that anyone can see. You just need to register as a reader and you can see them.
So you've got one moment you can be looking at Scott's manuscript and his notes beside his manuscript, and the next you can see how even today that contemporary writer is using the same setup to do the edits into his manuscript.
Absolutely, and actually contemporary writers go back and do use these for inspiration. I mean, and you know, if you're a writer just starting out, you could go and find your favorite author and see, you know, the struggles that they had, the doubts that they had in themselves, how many rejection letters they had, and I'm sure that's quite reassuring for a lot of people who are just starting out.
Well, thank you for bringing us up to date and begin to plan our trip to see you. And let's catch up in the next few weeks because it sounds like there's so much coming along, and maybe you'll be able to take us on a first trip to see the Great Artisans exhibit.
Absolutely, we'd love to welcome anyone who's coming to Edinburgh. Do drop us a line and we'd like to show you around.
So Renaissance 1480 to 1630, opening in June.
That opens in June, and we have a couple of smaller displays. So opening on the 26th of May, we have a smaller display called Images of Italy, and that will run until November. And it's a display that explores visual representations of Italy. And we'll be displaying some beautiful things from 15th century woodcut prints to 19th century photography. We've got John Ruskin's collections of daguerreotypes and photographs by James Craig Annan and calotypes from the famous Edinburgh Calotype Club. So we'll be highlighting how photographers and also other artists saw Italy and how their work helped generate this idea of Italy for British audiences.
Well, you definitely are getting everybody geared up for your 100th anniversary next year with all this going on. There's a lot happening with the library, that's for sure. So thank you very much, Lucy, and we'll catch up with you soon because there's a lot to talk about.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Camilla.
Thank you. I'm delighted this morning that we're able to catch up with Alison Bell, who's the marketing manager of the Inverness Castle Experience. It's a little time since we've been talking to Inverness, but they've been undergoing a major capital project in the region, £25 million. I'm probably underestimating it, but I'm really looking forward to hearing from Alison now. So Alison, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us. And this is really, you're coming near to the finish line at this point. You're nearly there. Next year, we should be able to come and experience the castle in a very different way, because it used to be the place of fear with the magistrates' court up there, and not a place that was sort of inviting to everybody, which it's now going to be. So can you bring us up to date? Tell us a little bit about all that is going on.
Thank you very much, Camilla, and thank you very much for the invitation to come back and tell you about how the project is developing. As you said, we are now hurtling towards the opening date, which is just over a year from now, so middle of next year. And we have been working on a wide front to progress all aspects of the Inverness Castle Experience. There are many different parts of the project. Just to set the context, as you mentioned, the castle was built as a courthouse and a jail in the 1830s and 40s, and it functioned as a jail up until around the turn of last century, so about 100 and odd years ago. But it functions as a courthouse right up until the day of lockdown in the UK, and that's when the courts packed up and went home. Thankfully, they were already intending to move, and they had built a new justice centre elsewhere in Inverness. And so when lockdown was lifted, they just came and picked up their boxes and they moved off to the new justice centre. Our project had started sometime before that because we knew they were going to move. And so we were already working on the transformation for creating the Inverness Castle Experience. So during lockdown, we were very busy working on that with the architects and the construction team.
I think one of the wonderful things about this whole project is that it's, if you go to Inverness, which for me is like a wonderful market town, everywhere is the castle. It sits at the top of this hill, this wonderful, impressive site. And when you started back in about 2017, I think I got the first notifications about sharing a project you were doing called Spirit of the Highlands, inviting people to tell their stories. Can you tell me how that became a part of all that's going on?
So when we were creating the new visitor attraction, we were trying to decide what would be in there. There was a very clear vision for the project, which was that it would be embraced by the people in the Highlands, that it would attract people from around the world to come and visit this world-class visitor attraction, and that it would inspire people to visit all parts of the Highlands. And so we thought, well, who better to bring that content together and to decide what should be in there than the people of the Highlands and people who are passionate about the Highlands themselves. And so we invited people, again, it was during the lockdown period, so we gave people lots to do. And so we asked people to submit their stories of the Highlands and things that they felt encapsulated the spirit of the Highlands. So what would they tell somebody about the Highlands if they were speaking to someone and telling them about it for the first time?
You got a terrific response, didn't you?
We've had over 500 stories, and so it's been a fantastic response. And we have, you're able to go and look at them online. So everything I'm talking about today is on invernesscastle.scot. And if you go into related projects there, you'll find a link to all the stories that we have received, and you can read them. So what we've done is to work with a creative company, creative designers who have taken these stories and grouped them into themes, and we are using these as the inspiration for the content that you will find when you come to visit the castle in Inverness.
But you don't call this a museum, because it's not just looking, it's an experience. So what will this experience be? Just a little insight into that.
Yeah, so it is an experience. We already have an Inverness Museum and Art Gallery, which sits absolutely adjacent to the castle, and invite everybody to visit that when they're in town too. But the transformation of the castle, which incidentally has been supported by the UK and the Scottish governments, it's a Highland Council project, which is the local government for the region here. And so the Highland Council are really the leaders of this project. We have worked together with all our partners to design the experience that will encourage people to find out about all parts of the Highlands, and it will really act as a gateway for tourism for the Highlands and the islands. So you come in the front door and your experience, well, in fact, sorry, I should step back and take a backward step. You actually come into the grounds of the castle, first of all, and that's when the experience begins. Now, it's free for anyone to enter the grounds of the castle. The paid experience starts when you cross the threshold, and into the building. But you can experience the gardens and find out some of the stories of the Highlands as you walk through the gardens to the front door, or as you linger in the gardens of an evening enjoying the sunset to the west of Inverness. And you'll experience the stories in the gardens through traditional interpretation boards, but also perhaps installations that come to life as you approach them with a sound and light system.
Ooh, but you really, you know, the thing about Inverness that is so special is it's such a friendly, wonderful Scottish experience. And I often say to people, you know, you can headquarter yourself in Inverness and then go out from there to discover the Highlands. And there's so many things that are close by, aren't there?
Yes, there are, that's the beauty of the Highlands. I mean, we have such rich culture in this area, and it doesn't really matter what aspect of our culture you are interested in. There are things to see throughout the area. And so you will be able to find things close to Inverness if you want to stay in this area, but equally if you've got a bit more of an adventurous spirit and you want to go further afield and travel through the rest of the Highlands, the castle would be a great place for you to start to find out about some of the lesser well-known parts of the Highlands and the lesser well-known stories of the Highlands too.
So we are just a year away from being able to come and see you. And are you going to have a wonderful grand opening? Are we are you starting to think of the plans for how to unveil this wonderful project?
We are in the planning stages. Nothing has been set in stone as yet. We are working towards opening in the middle of next year. But what we must do is make sure that we are able to open on the date that we say we're going to open. So we haven't announced an opening date as yet, and we won't do that until much closer to the time. And so hence our plans for any opening events will not be revealed until nearer the time too.
Well,
Keep
all
you
of
in
that you've
suspense.
been showing us of the visuals and the stories that of how this is coming together just make me want to make sure that I'm one of your early visitors, because it really is the most special place. And will be really wonderful. But also, I think it's the idea that it was once this place of fear, as one of our partners put it, that as a child she grew up there never wanting to go up to the castle because it would mean she was at the magistrate's court and in trouble. It's a wonderful change, but the community must be so excited by this.
Yes, we have had huge support for the project, and it's very I think everybody is looking forward to having a new attraction in the centre of Inverness. And particularly because it is designed to be a gateway for tourism and to inspire people to visit all parts of the area. So it's going to benefit the whole of the Highlands, and that is the really unique thing about it. And through all these stories that we have been donated, we're able to then create the content within the castle that will tell you about things throughout the Highlands that will pique your interest and encourage you to travel to all these different areas.
And for us over here, the train service between Edinburgh or Glasgow up to Inverness is one of the most beautiful routes, and not a long train journey, and it takes you right the way up. And so I really encourage everyone to put this down on that list for next year as they're working out where to go. So Alison, thank you for joining us today. Can we check back in with you in a few months' time and hear the latest updates?
We'd be delighted.
That would be fantastic. Thank you so much. So we'll speak with you soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Look forward to welcoming you to the castle.
And now let us turn to Dovecot Studios and an exhibit of Chris Ofili's The Caged Birdsong. This is a collaboration between Dovecot and Chris that has created a fabulous hand-woven tapestry. The imagery and design reflects the artist's ongoing interests in classical and contemporary mythology, with demons and dragons and stories of magic and the colour of the Trinidadian landscape that Chris inhabits. The exhibition will be on display from June 30th to October 5th. And so now let us turn to Dovecot to hear more of this project.
In new beginnings dwells a magic force. I think we really sensed that there was a magic force, Chris, the first day that you came to this studio and took time to talk with the weaving team, to talk tapestry and to explore ideas. And so that magic force seems to have gone on through the 3 years of this project.
When first seeing Chrissy's design, there was a great excitement. It was very different, it was challenging. The colours in it are incredible. Charcoal with the paint, those beautiful lines that come and go. Great excitement around that new challenge.
One could say that this is a joint work of the artist and the artists together. And Chris has said that he put you under pressure by creating a work in watercolour with that fluidity. So he put you under pressure, and by God you responded to it.
Chris's drawings were watercolour paintings, though that isn't an unfamiliar medium for tapestry. But we knew that there were things specifically about his that would be a challenge to interpretation. Partly this has come out of conversation, so from talking to him about his paintings, we knew that some of the chance effects, some of the unexpected actions of watercolour on paper were things that he decided to keep there. So there was an embracing of spontaneity of the way that the marks were being made. That's not about slavishly copying the source material, it's about trying to get to that same idea of fluidity and that same idea of spontaneity, so that when you're looking at the whole image, that meaning of the mark making is coming through, even though the materials have drastically changed.
When the third panel was unveiled, I remember we were all standing on the balcony at Dovecot before it was unrolled, and it was gradually unrolled, and there was an audible gasp from the people standing on the balcony, because the third panel was suddenly full of pinks and yellows and really warm kind of rose colours, and the first two panels had been so blue, so watery and aqua, these sort of aqua turquoise colours. So to suddenly see a whole new sort of colour spectrum emerge was beautiful, was really, really beautiful.
We were hoping for something that was contemporary, modern, bright, vibrant, and you've given us that in spades. Brilliant. We also mentioned we would welcome the idea of the tapestry being displayed somewhere in a public venue before it came to us. And we are delighted that it's going to the National Gallery.
Many artists in the National Gallery have designed for tapestry, Pisanello, Raphael, Rubens, Goya, and so there is an interest in showing a contemporary artist who's doing exactly the same thing in the 21st century. Clothworkers have been very generous actually to let us unveil it here. And what we've got upstairs in the National Gallery, which is so spectacular, is a series of these swaying figures, male and female figures, who are almost like temple dancers. And they kind of usher you in, they kind of entice you into the magic within. The subject matter of the work is a blend of a classical setting, a kind of Virgilian setting, Adam and Eve sitting on their island paradise. And then you've got this wonderful contemporary element. You've got the figure of Balotelli or the cocktail waiter in the sky. But then you've got this very important Trinidadian element. Not only the landscape, the waterfall, the sea behind, but also these two figures on either side of the tapestry, the man and the woman. And the man holds this songbird, which is in a cage. Whether the caged bird sings more sweetly or the uncaged bird sings more sweetly is in a way the sort of central mystery of the tapestry. The weavers had to translate what was essentially moments of spontaneity and, instantaneous ideas into something which is absolutely fixed, absolutely permanent, and absolutely thought through.
Thank you for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as we've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please visit our website, americanscottishfoundation.org, to learn more of the work we do, and consider becoming a member of the foundation. We would love for you to join us. And so, until next time.